how he was captured to give accountability on these fans. That is a standard there also. The world right now, they're grappling with the Titanic tour scare, where we have a missing captain as well of a submarine that has gone missing. That is a top story that is doing the rounds right now on the front of every media. So you can follow the story on page 27 of the Standard this morning. Now, beware that, okay, they're still going to affect you. Prices of electricity is bound to go up still. Electricity prices set to go up again. So we're always waiting for another shoe to fall here in the country. And with also the passage of the finance bill, that is going to be affecting your I should say, pocket. Senators files censure motion on CS Courier. If approved, Courier risks being declared unfit to hold public office, a move that could trigger the process of removing him from President Ruto's cabinet. This is the story that we want to follow, that we have the Nairobi Senator Sifuna, who has filed a motion of censure there for him now to be declared unfit to hold office. And though, of course, this is regarding his indecorous and expletives, indecorous manner on how he's actually holding his office right now, and also some of the things that have been tripping off his tongue, loose tongue, I should say. Kenya to join lucrative world of 3T minerals. It's a special report. You find out all about the 3T minerals, get all the wiser as far as the minerals are concerned. This is a standard for you today. And make sure as well you grab it, because inside there you have Enterprise magazine that comes in handy for you every Wednesday. And it's all about e-commerce, where we're headed right now, or we are, but it's getting up or being ramped up as well with the advent of artificial intelligence. The Standard, fresh for you for the reading. Let's see what the Daily Nation is holding for us this morning. And this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto, MPs still show in-house contest. The National Assembly yesterday extended its sitting into the night to allow MPs to vote on amendments to the controversial finance bill, which President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza side having its way early on. Speaker Moses Wetangula also acceded to demands for special consideration of some clauses, including those on VAT and housing levy. And you have this story well laid out for you on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. A country of poor people. That is what the sub-headline is reading here. A country of poor people. 5 in every 13 Kenyans lived in poverty in 2021, representing 38.6% of Kenya's population of 529,529,000, that is 49,529,000 that year. An increase of 20.7% from 2019, according to the new report, or the reports by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. So this story is well fleshed out for you on page 4 and 5 of this Daily Nation this morning. And also an illustration how this is spread out the whole countries with the most poor in hardcore poverty in 2021. Who is leading here? We have Samburu to begin with, and we have Samburu there standing at 30.3%. We have also Mandera, actually Wajir, followed by Wajir from that particular region. We at 22%. We have Migori at 6.9%. We have Nandi 13.1%, Kakamega 12.8%, Bungoma 6.7%, West Pokot 19.1%, Turkana 45.7%. Actually, Turkana is the one which is leading on this particular illustration, and Mandera 20.2%. Kitui as well there, 15.5%. Right, this is all about poverty. And the story has been as well that the richer are getting all the richer, and also the poor, or the poor are getting all the poorer. So that chasm is widening. That particular wage is driving or growing larger and larger to divide Kenyans into the wealthiest and the poorest as well. Rural overall poverty, 13,700,000. And urban overall poverty, 5,400,000. That is the hardcore poverty given there. The hardcore, okay, the urban overall poverty stands at 5 million. Then the hardcore, we have 238,000. And this, on the other side, on the rural beat, we have 2,641,000. My family survived on 1 meal a day. And that's the reality on the ground. And you can see a very telling picture on how it happens also in the slums as well. This is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Let's see what we have on the sidebar as well. Ministry advises couples to test for sickle cell before getting children. Right? So when you're going for your date and when you're doing the marriage counseling or pre-marriage counseling, this is a factor that should be considered as well because of rising cases of sickle cell and says the acting director general for health, Patrick Amot, says his ministry believes that testing for sickle cell disease, which is prevalent in Western and Nyanza regions, will help tame the rising number of children born with the disorder. And of course, you know how expensive, prohibitively expensive is to have medical care and even the drugs for sickle cells. That is a story that you want to follow inside page 3 of the Daily Nation today. A probe was done yesterday, and it says I changed mosquito nets tender specifications, says new KEMSA boss. And this is what we was being grilled about yesterday. Confusion as some schools fail to get capitation money. That is a story you can follow on page 12 of the Daily Nation. And we can move full steam ahead and see what is on the front page of the Star. How finance bill taxes will hurt you. Game of numbers. Ruto team bulldozes their way to impose proposed levies. Implications to be felt from next month when government begins to implement measures. You can follow the story on page 4 and 5 where it's well fleshed out for you. Reduced net pay. This is the reality that you'll be observing in some few months. Hiked fares. This begins actually next month. High food prices. Expensive power. Employers to pay for employees' housing. At least 3% tax on small businesses. 5% tax on income from digital content. Civil servants to pay tax on per diems. Right? Now that will not go scot-free. The much you get your per diem, the much you'll be taxed as well. KRA to set minimum price for alcohol and 16% VAT on fuel. All right? You can brace up yourself and we pray to God that things may change around for the country and the entire world, because also this is a menace that is affecting every nook and cranny of this world. KEMSA and NHIF scams could claim more big names. Follow the story on page 6 of the Star this morning. And Butera family demands answers from police. Sifuna files censure motion against CS Moses Kuria, and death sentence upheld for violent robbery guard. You can follow that story inside the Star this morning. And Kindiki is reading the riot act, I should say, to IG Kome and NPSC's Kinuthia, that is the National Police Service Commission. And it says they risk removal over public spot. Lately we've been seeing that particular toing and froing regarding also of the promotion of the police officers, that IG Kome went full steam ahead, and we have now Eliud Kinuthia stoutly saying that was flying against the provisions of the Constitution. This is not the remit of the IG part of the National Police Service Commissions who handle the human affairs or the HR affairs, human resources affairs of the police. This is on page 7 of the Star this morning. Raila's troops fail to stop Ruto taxes. That is what is hogging the front page of the People Daily this morning. And a filibuster Well, we saw the filibustering yesterday. Presidents and MPs put up a spirited fight in support of controversial finance bill on which Kenya Kwanza has staked key legacy projects, including its housing plan, amidst delay tactics by the opposition during House debate aimed to frustrate the legislation. You can follow the story on page 4 of the People Daily this morning. Nakumicha links NHIF boast to 1.6 billion shilling scandal. Health Minister reveals to Parliament probe team that insurance chief executive presided over payments of dubious claims to hospitals. And you're putting your jobs at risk, Kindiki warns Kome and NPSC. That is what I just told you. You can follow that story. And here we have a standalone picture. And we can see this is Nairobi Women Rep, Esther Passaris. And President William Ruto, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu, serving lunch to pupils during the launch of the Nairobi County School Feeding Program at Roysambu. And we have also the ex-CSC of Education Nairobi County who's challenging this particular development here, challenging the school feeding program as well, that money should be used for developing classrooms instead of a feeding program. Question is, will they stay hungry in well-structured classrooms? All right, at a glance, we have the National Assembly Speaker here with an unflappable smile of his. And you've been broken down. It's been broken for you at a glance, the housing, what issues are there regarding the housing levy, beauty products and income tax. Each employee and employer shall pay a monthly tax to be known as the Affordable Housing Levy. You know the details. I don't need to get granular with all the details about this particular finance bill. It has been beaten to the ground, and at least you have a grasp of what is inside there. But you can get all the gritty details inside the dailies as well. Wabunge mateka. That is what Taifa Leo is holding for us. Rais ametishia kubeba bakora na wapiga kura wanawakodolea macho. Kiswahili there, it's a bit of a problem. Kuona jinsi watakavyopiga kura bungeni. That is a story that you want to follow inside Taifa Leo. And TZ or Tanzania yazuia mahindi mpakani. Kindiki aonya Kome Kinuthia kwa kuzuzana. That is the story that you want to follow on page 3 of Taifa Leo. Let's buckle down to some business where Facebook is caught up in a payroll tax evasion claim in Kenya. And content moderators escalate fight with Kerry. Sama dismisses claim, saying has passed all tax audits. You can follow the story on page 2 of the People of the Business Daily. And Chinese firm in Kenya made smartphone projects revealed. Read all about it inside the Business Daily as well. How polygamous marriages are fueling poverty in Kenya. How polygamous marriages are fueling poverty in Kenya. Male-headed polygamous marriages in urban areas are likely to be poorer than their rural peers, pointing to the high cost of maintaining more than one wife in major cities and towns. Professor Kagwanja, I'm not saying you're polygamous, but I know you're a professor. I want to talk about social engineering on this as well, how that is exacerbating poverty. You'll come back to that. I know once you start on it, you want to leave me to finish with the dailies as well. But how polygamous is it? You know, this is cycle of poverty, exacerbated by men who want more than one wife. Centum wins in Two Rivers Special Economic Zones STAPE. That is still on the front page of the Business Daily as well. Love poverty. Inflation raises cost of dating. Right. We pity the men now who are dating. It's bound to be very costly right now. Let's head to Uganda, where Daily Monitor is holding this particular splash for us. Street Boys gang terrorizing city. And this is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. And also will be doggedly following the recent killings of students there by Al-Shabaab. That is the Daily Monitor in Uganda. All right, Tanzania is holding this. How Tanzania can attain digital transformation. So Tanzania has been advised to address challenges such as high cost of digital services, policies, and various issues related to tax if it hopes to attain its digital transformation goal by 2025. You can read all about it inside page 4 of the Citizen. Infrastructure. Zanzibar in 428 million financing deals. CTI TPSF cautiously welcome new budget. Read all about it in the Citizen this morning. In Rwanda, we have the New Times. And it says regional MPs tell EAC leaders to lower flight cost. Each EAC partner state has regulatory framework for airport transport services. And this story continues on page 5 of the New Times this morning. Kagame meets Zambian president ahead of FinTech Forum. This FinTech Forum will be happening in Rwanda, a very well-organized, wide-reaching FinTech Forum. President Paul Kagame and Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema inspecting the Guard of Honor at village Urugiro on Tuesday. President Hichilema, who is in Rwanda for a 2-day state visit, is expected to address the inaugural FinTech Forum that is taking place in Kigali from, of course, it began yesterday until tomorrow. And you can follow the story inside the New Times if you're waking up in Rwanda. China Daily is up next, and we've seen the diplomacy, as they call it. Xi Jinping has been making visitations and also being visited as well. As far as diplomacy is concerned, we can see German Chancellor here, Olaf Scholz, receiving a Premier, Liang Qiang, at the Federal Chancellery in Berlin on Tuesday, ahead of the China-Germany intergovernmental consultation. What does it portend, especially with the relations to Europe? Beijing, Berlin now vow to strengthen cooperation. Germany, China should nurture resilience. And also experts are giving their views. Time for US to build on goodwill. And this is after we had Antony Blinken visiting China, his first visitation as the Secretary of State. But we will look at also these relations between China and US, the Sino-US ties. What does it portend also for the world? Because we'll hear from the Secretary himself saying that it is for the well-good of all the world that their relations be seamless and healthy, so to speak. You can grab a copy of China Daily and read all about it. Our experts are here. They will slice and dice this issue for us. China Daily. All right, let's buckle down. We see what we have in the editorial pages and the cartoons. And this is what is happening in Uganda so far, barely after the fresh clod of soil has settled on the graves of the soldiers. We've had students, 42 of them, who have lost their lives because of the terror attack in Uganda. And we have Garo quoting an anonymous quote here, so to speak, like the vermins and cowards that they are, they ran away. We'll pursue them wherever they will be until they are held to account. And the resurgence of Al-Shabaab is here with us. How can we stanch that particular resurgence of the militants? We'll discuss about that. And this is what is on the front page, not really on the front page, but the editorial page of the Standard this morning. School terror attack in Uganda. Our guests will be commenting on this as well. Finance bill. This is how it looks. Everyone is looking through the microscope. That is Right Honorable Raila Odinga and also President William Ruto. And we have also legislators who have not been voting for it, some who voted no, and yes as well. I know you know the story about finance bill. Yesterday they were debating about it late into the night. That is a story that you want to follow, or even on the editorial page where they're talking about understand the rising menace of Al-Shabaab. We have NHIF scandal, and it seems also that it's only the junior employees who are being handled on this, or being fished, as you can see there, from the investigators. That is what we have with the NHIF scandal. You've been following the story, and you know about this right now. Media is being crucified. Media on the cross there, and CS Moses Kuria is the one who is hammering this particular big nail on the cross where media has been nailed so far. So we have the nail-riven hands of the media. We have the deputy president stepping on one hand and handing over also the nail to Moses Kuria. The president and also the prime cabinet secretary, they are looking on. But we've had also the prime cabinet secretary speaking about this, that he does not really hold with the view or the comment of Moses Kuria. Can we begin there with our panelists this morning? I'm holding court with Professor Peter Kagwanja, who is the CEO of Africa Policy Institute. Also, we do have with us Ahmed Hashi, who is a governance and policy analyst. Dr. Hassan Kanenje, he is the director at the Horn Institute. Gentlemen, good morning. Yeah, it seems Kagwanja needs to be given some tea this morning. It doesn't look like...
yes, I think,
yeah.
I think you should be given some tea while I start on Mr. Kuria.
On Mr. Kuria.
When history is written about.
But we want to know how he is this morning. Kagwanja, how are you?
He's fine.
You slept late into the night or what?
No. Why are you trying to make me different?
Can you let this old fellow...
You have, I mean, I don't know why you prepared missiles against on this.
No, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you, and your eyes are droopy.
Because you've never had a chance of looking at me from this eye. Because I always sit there. So the problem is not mine.
You want to say my eyes are hackeneyed a bit?
It's your Mulembe eyes.
Watch your your child.
Yeah, I should serve something.
Yeah,
okay. Continue.
Karibu, senior, my dear colleague Hassan. Good morning, Debal. You know, I think that the noose is not being tied around us. I think the noose is being tied around the government. But it does not know that it's tightening its own noose. The ball across the political spectrum, the government's ministers, the ball in parliament being questioned about corruption. It has now come out that on the first day that they met was a 5.4 billion program that was passed, allegedly passed. This is in the nation. And this has caught the ire of Mr. Kuria on the nation, because they pass these things in a hush-hush way, no taxation, no nothing, no paperwork. And Mr. Kuria is pretty pissed off at the press. Remember, this is called the free press. It's the fourth estate. You know, the fourth estate comes from the revolution in France, where they had the first estate, which was the emperor, the second estate, which was the aristocracy, the third estate, which was the National Assembly. This is where these words come from. And this is for the benefit of the University of Nairobi students. And Debal, it's Mr. Kuria is the spiritual leader of the UDA. What's that political party called?
UDA.
UDA. I have trouble, I can't remember. He's the Ayatollah Khomeini of the party. And him, together with the deputy president, represent the right wing of the UDA. Which means, Debal, that the government's agenda, rightly so, which is making Kenya suffer, is being changed into a press war to divert our attention from the meat and potatoes of the UDA, which has failed in its delivery to Kenyans. So I think that Mr. Kuria is playing Dubai politics, where you bling, wear gold, drive a fast car, so that the citizens can look at you while the corruption of the seed oil deal is continuing. You could see that the insurance companies are in league with the health department. According to our cabinet secretary, there's no traffic in Nairobi. There is no money in Kenya. The government has got a python around its neck. Sooner or later, the government is going to be squeezed out of the public consciousness, and we cannot wait for that one-term government to leave our country, and we can elect a better government than this one.
All right, so I still want to believe that the Dubai politics is not related to, the bling-bling on one side and corruption. So you're speaking figuratively here, so we don't want to...
I'm just speaking because there's a cabinet secretary who put a picture on Twitter that he was watching Liverpool while Kenyans were suffering. He was watching Liverpool play Arsenal at the VIP, and he also showing us how, my watch is not very expensive, Dewal. It's made by Masai's here in Gong. He was showing us that he had...
I didn't know there's a...
Oh yeah, it's called Nkata. It's a Masai program, a Masai shop that I buy my watches from. But this other fellow spent millions and millions upon it to show that now he had bling. And the creator of Facebook, Debal, lives in a one-room bedroom apartment with a T-shirt and jeans. He's worth $100 billion. He gives money to the poor and pays college for thousands of students. Well, the nation, Debal, I'm not speaking, this is not theoretical, Debal. We're a country of poor people. And it's right there. The people of this country are suffering. I mean, they could hide their bling, Debal, even if they bought it. They don't have to put it on Twitter. It just shows you this people of new money, how, inexperienced they are about social mores. I rest my case, Debal.
Well, thank you. Let me hear from Dr. Hassan Kanenje. Good morning.
Good morning, Debal. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I think following up on what Hashi was talking about, first of all, the CS has the right, to raise an opinion. In a free world and a free country, of course, he can exercise that right, no matter what. I think what is important is for us to know where we're coming from. And the freedom of the media is fundamental freedom in any democracy. In fact, media freedom is synonymous with democratic practice. In the absence of that, then you can as well resign yourself to the fate of totalitarianism and authoritarian rule. And so, to the extent that perhaps there are going to be questions about the media, of course, they could be been helpful. Now, that doesn't mean that we always get it right in the media, but neither should we question the right for them to be able to do their work. One American statesman once said that democracy is being able to allow someone to disagree with you, but still at the same time defend their right to disagree with you. And it is the fourth estate and other actors that actually make democracy work. Anytime, for instance, we are not held to account for those of us in power, the temptation for us to become authoritarian is very, very high. It's just a natural instinct of human beings. We are not exactly as angelic as we always think, because the moment we have unlimited power, we're going to be tempted to abuse it. And that is part of the reason why media exists. And I do not think, considering the history of this country where we're coming from, and especially those who actually suffered and died in this country in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, to ensure that we can be able to sit today here, and that even those in government and outside government can be able to say things as they please from wherever they can choose, and still they're not going to end up in the dungeons, of torture. And we have seen in 2003, some house in this city was opened, and it was estimated that thousands of Kenyans went through it, and they were tortured, and men disappeared and died. We don't really want to get back there, and that is why we may disagree with things that the media may say. I don't think there is anyone who has always been happy, with the media 24/7. But we still have to defend their right to say what they're saying. Now, if they are going to cross the line, there is a legal recourse. We have institutions. We can sue them in the courts of law. And if probably what they presented was not factual or it was malicious, then let it be settled there. But I think we have to be very careful. Now, the reason I'm also, I think, passionate about pushing this point is when we're public figures or when you have public platforms, including those of us here, the things we say are very, very important. They can build or destroy a country, but they can also limit a country's ability to engage the rest of the world. Part of the challenges we're facing in diplomacy in the region has a lot to do with some of the statements we've actually been saying, because we've not been paying very close attention to the impact that is having in the region and in the world. And so that makes us small. Picking fights with media does not make us bigger. It actually makes us smaller. The president himself is on record of having said that, well, sometimes the media doesn't always write good things about me, but you know what, this is democracy, and we're going to have to fight to protect them. And of course, I expect the ruling party is still going to come out in support of that principle to ensure that we can make this democratic project called Kenya survive.
Thank you very much. Let's hear from Professor Kagwanja.
Thank you, Dibal, and thank you, colleagues, and I hope you had a good weekend, as I did myself. I went to Muranga. Don't mention Muranga, Texas here. I went to Muranga over the weekend and had a nice harambe, and that was great. Also a birthday of a 23-year-old who has never been to Kenya. From my friend, an old man from Gatanga. It was amazing. The son has been away for 26 years. Then he comes back with a 23-year-old, and the son insisted that he has to have his 23rd birthday with his grandfather. So I thought that was very patriotic of an American child who is originally Kenyan. It's very interesting. And so I had that. But that said, I think I also happened to have listened to the clip by Moses Kuria. And I know Moses. He's my good friend. I must say that on air. But he and I were behind this constitution. I went with Kuria to Naivasha for the new constitution. He was our media anchor, from the campaign perspective. And we went through all these clauses, which is more democratic, which is more undemocratic. But his statement is appalling, and to say there is anti-democratic. It reflects a very, very negative culture of politics. Because if you don't agree with the media, the recourse is not to punish it by literally pushing it out of business. Because when you advocate that a media house should be denied government advertisement because of its position, then what you're saying is simply that you want to push that particular business, out of, the mainstream business. Because the government is one of the major traders with its own citizens, particularly corporations. So I found that worrying, because it has resonances in where we are coming from. I think Dr. Kanenje mentioned that we are coming from a history of authoritarian, repression against the right to speak, the right to articulate yourself publicly. And when it's amazing that what Kuria said, for me, reminded me of another Kuria in the Kano days.
Yes.
Yeah, it reminded me of an old man, Ahmed Nasir from Mombasa, who would tell us mupende musipende. And Kuria tutawagonga, and it's amazing, because those are the days that things were difficult. Let me say this: the media in Kenya has had its excesses. There's no doubt about that. The quality of the media sometimes is worrying in this country, particularly investigative journalism, where you need to walk an extra mile to bring data, new information on the table. You go on a long tirade of winding words without any content, and you make conclusions that cannot stand. So the media has had its own excesses too. We've seen media, and I don't want to get into the details of this because some of the media can hear me. I see media basically organizing our politics as, this and this. I remember one editor telling me, oh, you are not on the side of the Azimio, and you are not on the side of these hustlers So you cannot, your quorum cannot be there. You've got to go the other way around. Now, those are excesses. But what I want to say is that there is no alternative to media freedom. There is no alternative to free speech. And there is no alternative to the liberty to articulate yourself as a citizen. Because the moment we all go silent, this country goes to the dogs.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that's where we are up to, what we are up to. So, Kuria need to be censored on that account. But this does not mean that I will not have a cup of tea with him. He's my friend. But on this particular public issue, he's on the wrong side of the road. Now, the government seems to be, speaking from the two sides of the mouth.
Three sides.
On this, three sides? Whose mouth is three-sided? So yeah, it's speaking from the both sides of the mouth that you want to eat your cake and have it. You either say Kuria is wrong, or you don't say anything. Let that be part of the collective responsibility. Yeah. If you think he is not right, why do I say so? Because you cannot say that you don't agree with Kuria on this, and you don't, but you agree. You are unhappy with the media on this. What exactly are we saying? There need to be a very categorical statement from the government to assure us that we are not hurtling back to the dark days of censoring not only media, because the moment you censor media, remember our freedom, we got our freedom from one man called Pius Nyamora. When we waited for him to be arrested and detained, and he went for dinner with his children, when he put a cartoon of President Daniel Arap Moi running with a kaptura, with the kinyaza, the short pants, the opposite way when the others were going on track. Yeah. And we waited with,
you taken that word from the archives, kaptula.
Yes, kaptula, yes. We waited with bated breath to see Pius Nyamora arrested and, detained, as the culture was. And from that point on, when Pius Nyamora walked a free man the next day, the cartoons, all the papers were free. By the way, Pius Nyamora was publishing a paper called Society. So in Daily Nation, The Standard and others started saying cartoons of Mzee Moi, and that was the beginning of freedom. And of course, Pius Nyamora had paid heavily for that. But at the same time, we must never forget that the price at which we got this media freedom is worth basically defending and saying what we are saying.
I couldn't agree with my senior much more. Just to add to him, is that the president is very mum on it. The president has never supported media freedom. He never supported the new constitution. He never supported the devolved government. He never supported counties.
According to what?
His record. He didn't support the counties. He didn't support the constitution.
No, don't ride on my remarks.
No, I'm not riding on your remarks. I'm saying my own
other funny remarks.
You are not a horse for me to ride anything. I am just saying what's in the public record, that the president has never been a friend of the press. In fact,
which public record?
Which public?
Well, the president opposed the new constitution during the debate.
No, that is his right
when he lost.
No, hold on. You're not the government spokesperson.
No.
Let me speak to him. It's my turn. Can I speak to him? Let him talk to me. So I believe that the press in this country, if the president was elected on a democratic ticket, the most important defender is not only the public, it's also our head of state and head of government. If his ministers, his errant ministers, continue to attack the press like this as a sidewinder, there's a missile in the F-16 called a sidewinder. This, to make the debate go away. We don't want the debate to go away, and what is happening to the press under Mr. Kuria is atrocious, and we have to call them out on it. There's no question about the freedom of the press in this country, because the opposition is being hit in parliament because they're stealing the members of opposition to support the government. So the press is one of the major bulwarks against these issues of corruption and free speech in this country, and I want to support my senior learned's first-class statements about this thing.
All right. Let me hear from Dr. Kanenje. I just want us to also turn back to the issue of what we do have on the editorial pages of The Standard. Just briefly, because we'll drill deeper on it much later. But you're looking at that editorial cartoon as well. and the resurgence of Al-Shabaab. We've seen what they did in Lamu. We have two KDF officers who also lost their lives because of Al-Shabaab. We had also the predicament of the students as well. Uganda is still grieving over the students, and this is pointing towards Al-Shabaab, all the hallmarks of Al-Shabaab as well. And barely, as I mentioned before, when the soil is, the fresh clod of soil has not really shaken and settled on the graves of the soldiers as well, we have the students dying in Uganda. What is really happening? Because I can see also CS of Defense, this is Eden Duale, has raised concerns, and also at least the military is looking forward to being modernized, according to him, to actually fight the menace of Al-Shabaab. So what does it mean to modernize the military?
Yes. I shouldn't have said anything. I lost my tongue.
Dibal, one thing that I think is important for us, to remember is security services in this country, the military, has already been, doing its part for much of the last decade. And when it comes to the fight against terror, Kenya has lost both in blood and treasure, trying, number one, to defend its citizens, and number two, to help, pacify its neighbor in Somalia, which is the epicenter of Al-Shabaab. It's not just the resurgence of Al-Shabaab, but it's the resurgence of militant, terror groups within the region. The attack in Uganda was, conducted by an ISIS affiliate, which is, ADF, and this seems to be increasing, and is coming on the heels of massive attack against Ugandan, ATMIS forces in Somalia that killed, dozens. Attempted attacks in Kenya that have claimed lives of security officers, and of course the recent attacks both in DRC, which we had discussed on this forum, but now the most recent ones in Uganda. Now, what does it mean in terms of modernizing the military? I do not know the context with which the CS was talking about modernizing the military to fight, because it goes beyond the military in fighting Al-Shabaab. Especially internally here, it has a lot to do with law enforcement, and it has a lot to do with community policing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a way in which military is trained to fight an enemy, out there, but most of the operations taking place, for instance, within Kenya, is being done in ways that sometimes the military is not exactly the one that's responsible for responding to them, and so that has to do with policing generally, as both and intelligence, as well as the community. Now, when it comes to the war against terror, generally we can only defeat ourselves. While they pose existential threats to certain countries, they are not a conventional force that can be able to take on to our military or our security services. That is why they conduct the insurgent attacks using IEDs, and the kind of surprise attacks, on convoys, because they are not capable of being able to put together a conventional attack against the forces. Now, as the region has gotten into a set of flux and things seem to be in turmoil everywhere, it has provided an opportunity for Al-Shabaab as well as ISIS to exploit these kind of fragilities. Now, it doesn't help, the fact that within Somalia, the Somali government and the ATMIS contingent as well as foreign partners, they've been registering success against Al-Shabaab. Anytime a terror group is on the back foot, they are always going to seek to retaliate, to hit someone, demonstrate their relevance, or at least demonstrate their resilience, but it also is used as a propaganda tool for them in terms of resource mobilization and recruitment. And so we need to look at it from that perspective, that they are facing pressures that they have not faced in recent years, but at the same time that the regional environment of fragility is exacerbating the problem and creating more spaces for actually them to take action.
Thank you very much. Hamidash, you wanted to say something, but before then, let me just hear from Professor Simeon Songi. Good. to have you this morning.
Yes, good morning, brother.
You slept through the alarm again.
No, I did. You know, this sometimes Thika Road is unpredictable, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to join my brothers in talking about these very important issues. No, I think we have learned the lessons on the so-called war on terror. The war on terror will not be fought by ammunition and guns. It's a war of heart and mind. So that's clear. We have so many case studies to prove this. But I think we have taken some very important steps. One is to make sure that security agencies work together. They share information so that these individuals who want to create problems to others be able to be dealt with. So the sharing of information is critical. So if there are any laxities, I believe that's where we need to start. Are these security agencies sharing information? Do they know what is happening? I don't want to touch the question of Shakahola and the problems that we saw from that case, that people were being killed, but security agencies never knew what was happening. So number one is, are we sharing, are security agencies sharing information? And this is not just within Kenya, it should be within the region. We have something we call mutual legal assistance, which is part of sharing of this information relating to crime. But in Kenya, we've taken some other interesting policies like Nyumba Kumi initiative. The Nyumba Kumi initiative, the rationale behind this policy was to make sure that people within the estates, within the areas they live, they're able to know who is there, who's the new person, what are they doing. It was borrowed from our brothers and sisters in Tanzania. And I think these incidents that are coming up, to me, it's because we are not taking these initiatives seriously and making sure we go to the root of the problem. But again, the war on terror cannot be won by ammunition and guns. It's a heart and minds war.
Hearts and minds war. I just wanted to look at the Star, and if my director may just pick it up so that we can see what the development, as you say, why are they modernizing the military to fight Al-Shabaab? This is on the second page of the Star, and we'll run you by that particular clip momentarily, but this is what it says here, if we may just have it in full, that state will modernize artillery to fight Shabaab. Equipment will include sophisticated armored personnel carriers. The government will modernize KDF and police artillery in a renewed move to end Al-Shabaab attacks in Kenya and in Somalia. Defense Cabinet Secretary Eden Duale has said, he's saying the government will in next 3 months buy sophisticated equipment to help the police and the Kenya Defense Forces fight militants. The equipment will include sophisticated armored personnel carriers with ability to detect improvised explosive devices along the areas under their command. Duale said the government will not allow terrorists to attack any part of the country. The CS said the government will not be intimidated. He was speaking during a baraza in Masalani town, Garissa County, after meeting elders and community leaders over security matters as well. Let me hear from, just a moment, let me hear from Peter Kagwanja on this, because you've been saying, we've actually been looking at how hard power cannot really sometimes be able to stem these militants, what do we call it? Militant groups.
Yes.
Yeah, so you begin from hardcore power.
Now, you've got to know the four.
You give us the transitions, the hardcore power.
The four forms
power.
of power. First, we have hard power, which is a crude, traditional way of dealing with things. This is how we acted in Stone Age. Now, the second is soft power, which basically appeals to the mind. It appeals to persuasion. You call people to either discuss with you or you win of them over through whichever means. The third is smart power. Smart power is when you combine hard power and soft power, because sometimes soft power may not always work. Because there are some people you cannot persuade, like terrorists. sometimes are very difficult to sit down with and talk. Finally, we have the newest power, which is what they are calling sharp power. Sharp power is where you become crude and use IT, the newest information technology, and you enter what we are now calling the post-truth politics. Just pure lies, misinformation as a way of getting it. And I think that's what Dr. Kanenje was talking about Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is losing out in Somalia in big way. It's just yesterday, is it yesterday or the day before yesterday, the two top leaders were killed, Aden Abdulrahman and Idris Nur. I mean, they were struck, in Jamame, in what is Jubaland. Now, what does that tell you? They need to stay relevant, and therefore they are using sharp power in order to survive. They are manipulating. Why attacks in Uganda? It's because Uganda is already on the profile on these matters of same-sex, marriages and same-sex issues. It's already, so they are hiding. They're very intelligent. I think we were with Dr. Kanenje, Mustafa Ali, and others at Windsor about 4 years ago when we said, approach Al-Shabaab as the most intellectual of movements. Because it does not just strike for the sake of it. It wants to maximize on publicity. It wanted to be seen to be extremely effective. Now, because the focus has been on its defeat in Somalia, now it wants to cast its image as transnational, and therefore these sporadic attacks in Congo, in Mozambique, in Uganda, and you are going to see attempts in Ethiopia and attempts in Kenya, is painting a picture of a very multinational, multi-pronged kind of a fighting force, which it is not. In regard to modernization, I think it's a good idea. Just like Mahatma Gandhi would tell the Westerners that the Western civilization is a good idea, meaning it's not realizable in the short term. How do you modernize against Al-Shabaab? Al-Shabaab is not modern itself. We're not confronting a modern force in that regard, because there are certain things that you cannot access. It is true. It has planted landmines all over northern Kenya and Jubaland and related places. But I think we need to tighten the noose elsewhere. One is to really understand what the concept of multi-agency operation means, and therefore break out of our silos in regard to the various compartments of our security forces. Now, you may like it, you may not like it, but our fight must be intelligence-led. I would have liked to hear what, in terms of intelligence, is we're modernizing, because that is the sharp spearhead in this fight. Without information, you cannot deal with the terrorists. Remember, terrorism is based on the principle of guerrillas, guerrilla warfare. And nobody has ever won a war against guerrillas. Measure them. You can't win. You only win through intelligence. Any victory has always come through intelligence. So we need to tighten this concept of multi-agency operations. It's not about the military. It's not about the police and their mobile security. It is about how the police, the intelligence, the army, and the ordinary citizen are working in tandem to deter and detect the Al-Shabaab. That, to me, is more important. But I want to make a controversial point. We hope and we pray that nobody is using Al-Shabaab instrumentally to weaken Africa. Because we do know that terrorism has been used in many parts of the world by civilized nations, not by other ordinary people. Civilized nations to basically weaken countries. Uganda might not be having the right politics, but we hope that nobody is using terrorism to make it very difficult for Uganda in this regard, because two attacks